And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace with Totter. I am going through puberty. With Totters and Aaron McIntyre. We are brought to you by our good friends over at Preborn. I know a lot of you this time of year, you're looking for the ideal end-of-year gift to be giving. You can't do better than the gift of life. For as little as $28, you can fund an ultrasound that doubles a baby's chance at life today. And I would argue greatly improves the mommy's chances of her soul, saving her soul as well. All right. And what Preborn does is they confront moms who are considering the murder of their own children. They confront them. It's gentle, but it's a confrontation nonetheless with an ultrasound so they can hear that heartbeat. And then once mom hopefully chooses life, then they are there to give her grace, love, redemption, restoration up to 2 years after the baby's birth. Prenatal, postnatal care, practical stuff like car seats and diapers, intimate things like counseling as well, so that this new family gets started off on the right foot. It's truly discipling the nation. That's what it is, and that's why we are proud to support them here at The Blaze, and so proud of all of you for your generosity these last few years working with Preborn. Let's keep it going. Finish this year strong. Make a donation today, tax deductible, to this 5-star rated charity at preborn.com/Steve. Again, that's preborn.com/Steve. All right, coming up on today's show at the bottom of the hour, we'll get started with what you guys want to talk about on Buy, Sell, or Hold. Then we'll find out what Daniel Horowitz wants to talk about when he takes us inside politics in the final segment of the program. But until then, let's kick this off right now with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Kash Patel in trouble. Just kidding. Yesterday, reports circulated claiming FBI Director Kash Patel was in danger of being ousted from his post. Those reports claimed President Trump was unhappy with the negative headlines Patel continues to generate. Well, those reports got shut down quickly, with White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt sharing this photograph of Trump and Patel together in the Oval Office, assuring everyone Trump is pleased with his FBI director. And aboard Air Force One, Trump said,
"Are you planning to replace Kash Patel as
No, he's doing a good job. Kash Patel? No, he's doing a great job, I think.
We shall see. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller has some ideas of what should be done with the seditious six, those Democrats calling for the sabotage of the Trump administration via the military.
Well, they should be held accountable under the law and under the Uniform Code of Military Justice for a seditious conspiracy against the United States of America. This is completely open and shut, straightforward. What is the motivation? Why would 6 members of Congress, selecting specifically for individuals with a CIA or military background, record a carefully written, carefully produced, slickly edited video messaging directly to members of our clandestine services and our armed forces? For what purpose would you ever deliver this message? As you said, it's to create a color revolution. It is the CIA playbook for trying to foment insurrection from within the military and within the CIA.
Tucker Carlson is making waves again. Here he is on the Sean Ryan Show this week discussing threats to Western civilization.
Who are these people? Are they the Muslims? Are they the Jews? Are they, whatever people have always... No. They're not the Muslims, they're not the Jews, they're not the blacks, they're not whatever group you're blaming. They're any individual who doesn't acknowledge the human soul. Period. That the rights begin and end with the individual, not the group. Therefore, an attack on Western civilization looks like this. It's tribalism, it's identity politics, it's DEI, it's whatever. It's Zionism, it's any belief system that begins with the understanding that one group is morally superior to other groups.
Not sure that's what Zionism means. Otherwise, good stuff, I guess. In another clip, Carlson drops this bomb.
And on the Republican Party, which is almost to the point where it's just useless, and I'm going to have to oppose it because I hate them too much, but because they're such betrayers. But anyway, in the Republican Party, it's like, you a socialist? Are you from Mamdani? No, not really a socialist. Just, I don't want any more dollar stores. I don't want high density housing in my neighborhood. I don't want any more strip malls that nobody goes to. No more karate studios and vape shops. Like, how about no? Oh, socialist? You don't believe in the free market? Because you bribed a county commissioner to build more garbage? You don't even live here? Mm-hmm. In a normal society, we'd burn your strip mall down. You can't do that here. You can't turn my women into prostitutes. Sorry, OnlyFans. And you can't destroy the landscape that I live in. No. How about no? That's not crazy, is it?
Learning Chinese today. Today's phrase is, he's going to run for president, isn't he?
他要竞选总统，对吧？
Checking in on another 2028 contender, here's Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro.
Today, when I sign the Crown Act into law, that will be the next step in making good on that promise of bringing about real freedom for all Pennsylvanians.
What is the Crown Act, the law Shapiro signed that he was just talking about? Well, it prevents so-called hair discrimination, among other things. And finally, dispatches from the world of sports, bro. There's a new November men's college basketball tournament called the Players Era Tournament. It's held in Las Vegas. Unlike a lot of these invitational tournaments this time of year, like Maui or the Battle for Atlantis, this tournament features 18 teams in an empty arena, and unlike most tournaments, the different college programs are playing for millions of dollars in name, image, and likeness funds for their respective universities, and it's produced some pretty epic moments so far, like this one.
Cockfighting is a noble sport. It's an example of how courage can be summoned, bravery. It's like no other sport in the entire world.
Whoops, wrong clip. Anywho, also, unlike most tournaments this time of year, the Players Era Tournament isn't actually a tournament at all. It uses some sort of weird margin of victory formula to determine over a 3-game span who gets to compete for which spot in the final pecking order. So conceivably, you could lose your first game to the second worst team in the field by 1 point, win your next game against the worst opponent in the field by 45 or 50 points, and still have the opportunity to compete for the money. Iowa State, for example, beat a really good St. John's team by 1 point, beat a middling Creighton team by nearly 20, and will be competing for 5th place tonight against Syracuse because that makes sense. Oh, and they lost their star point guard in the process. Anyway, more highlights from this brand new tournament.
Commercially, it's probably one of the biggest industries in the whole Philippines. The people who take bets would spread their arms like that. They're called Christos, like Christ. They solicit bets from them. There are many of them. But by God, they remember every single man who takes the bet.
And that's what happened while we were away.
I respect you did that. Todd needed that. He's taken some shots in the kicker round of your montage at times this year. That was more than a make good for him. I respected that. That was like a long-distance dedication to Erzin there. All it was missing was Casey Kasem on the mic. All right, let's get to the montage. Kash Patel, man, just really quick. Do you really believe Trump thinks Kash Patel is doing a good job?
He might.
Do you think if we put the Wonder Woman lasso of truth around Donald Trump, he would say Kash Patel is doing a good job? Do you believe this? You do? You think it's possible?
Oh, yeah.
You do? Because I don't. Yeah. I don't think that at all. All right, Aaron, you're the tie-breaking vote. What do you think? Then we're just going to move on. What do you think?
Oh, man. I have to gun to my head?
Yeah. Wonder Woman lasso of truth around Donald Trump. Yeah. Does he say Kash Patel is doing a good job?
No.
All right. But at least Aaron had to think about that. See, it was like instinctive. There's no way he's saying that to me. No way. In fact, I'm convinced the original story was actually true by the timing of how it all went down. A story out of nowhere that they're thinking of getting rid of him, and then they come back and say it's not true. I think that's... Got to remember, man, Trump loves his Game of Thrones, loves that stuff. I think that was absolutely a shot across Kash Patel's bow. I do. I think that was, before extinction, there's the endangered species list, and brother, you're on it. That's what I think it was.
But why do we need shots across the bow? See,
well,
this is
I'm with you on that's a separate debate and question. And I am with you on this. In fact, I did Jesse Kelly's show yesterday after our own, and he asked me this question that you just asked me. And the only answer I could come up with was, it's very clear that the president has tried to counter the narratives against his first term from the way he's rolled out his second term, right? Remember the very first fight of the Trump presidency was arguing over crowd size at inaugurals. Remember this? Okay.
Yeah.
And instead on election night, if Trump was ever justified in ever taking the most obnoxious victory lap of all time, he didn't do it on election night. He made it about issues, made it about what's best for the country, talked about people like RFK Jr. that he's looking forward to appointing to certain cabinet posts, right? Then he came out, during the transition, had these like really, deep and detailed, policy and executive order menus that he was going to roll with, right? Because he was on message. He's on agenda. Well, so he answered those two objections in the first 6 months of the first year here until they ran into the part where they can no longer just do everything unilaterally but have to rely on the other two branches. We're pretty good. I think we all would agree. We'd give him a high grade for the first half of this year, and then the more and more you have to rely on the rest of what we call our federal government, the steeper the decline of performance has gotten. But what was the other big knock? The revolving door, the bad hires. Anthony Scaramucci comes out of nowhere. He's now White House, spokesman. Then he's gone. Omarosa gets a White House job. Who are these people? Where'd they come from? The constant revolving doors. And I think maybe there's a lot of sensitivity to that. And if I had to guess over the holidays, when a lot of people are not paying attention, I'm going to guess either Pam Bondi or Kash Patel are gone. One of those two will be gone over the holidays when a lot of people aren't paying attention. To again demonstrate, nope, we're running a tight ship here. So to me, that's like you and I have, old enough to remember when a manager got the vote of confidence in baseball. Do you remember that?
Sure.
What usually happened to that manager, like in the days and weeks soon after getting the vote of confidence from the owner? What typically happened?
The worst vote of no confidence.
Yeah, a firing. It was what typically occurred. I mean, it was a joke. It was a running joke on SportsCenter most of our lives. The dreaded vote of confidence meant that struck me. And Trump is from that era, comes out of that kind of media culture. That whole thing, I'm already talking about this way more than I wanted to, but that just struck me, the way that whole thing went down, struck me as an absolute, quote unquote, vote of confidence for Kash Patel. That's what I think.
Can we just do things? I'm tired of these reindeer games. I'm just am.
Well, I'm with you on that too.
I'm getting to the point where I'm sure you're going to get to it, but Stephen Miller, if you say something like that we believe in, the further along this thing gets, as good of a messenger he is, if they believe that and you don't do the thing that you say you believe, it's that level of gravity, we may as well just go back to, saying nothing at all.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. But I also think some of Stephen Miller's messaging, and this is maybe why for the last couple of months he was not seen as often, because I also think that his messaging is not necessarily always the White House message, but what he thinks the White House message and policy ought to be. And that sometimes they're ironing.
Work at the White House.
But he's not the guy in the corner office. Right? And that there are varying influences and ideas that are conflicting there. And I think sometimes he goes out there and attempts to point things in the direction that he thinks it really ought to be going. That it's not just a messaging to the public. It's like a coach messages to his own team sometimes too in what he says or doesn't say to the media. Wants to send a message to his team. And I think that's some of what Miller does too. Those 2 points I just made, speculation though. Not completely uneducated speculation, but speculation nevertheless. Let's get to Tucker. Let's get this out of the way. Aaron, do you really believe Tucker Carlson's going to run for president against his friend J.D. Vance? Do you really believe that's going to happen? Or are you just enjoying throwing out...
Oh, it's 65%.
Farting in church, which I don't blame you for, 65%
by the way. Joking right now.
Okay, all right, right now. Right now is the caveat, respect. All right, let's get to the broader worldview things, because now we're getting into... I think the kinds of conversations, regardless of what you think of Tucker and his current arc, both of those clips I think are highly valuable and constructive. I mean, these are the hard conversations we ought to be having as a people. Like what Whitlock was talking about earlier this week on the show. This is way more constructive than actually Hitler. Way more constructive than that. And of course, there's going to be a lot of people on our side. They're going to balk at Zionism being thrown in as a group identity. Well, let me do something that I have yet to do when it comes to Tucker and the Israel Jew debate. Because up until this period of time, I think I've pretty much demonstrated over and over again that on that particular issue, I tend to be on the side of most of our conservative Jewish friends and not on Tucker's side.
Right.
Up until this point, I've pretty much taken their side against him the entire time, right? I think I'm going to shock a lot of people and take his side on this over theirs. And let me explain why. It goes to something I noticed this morning, and it's why I pointed it out and answered it and sent it over to you guys. All right, there's a post this morning in my feed on X at Steve Deace Show. And it's me responding to a woman I've never heard of and do not know. Ellie Cohanam. Ellie Cohanam. She's a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, which is an organization we've had guests on from IWF over the years several times. She's just not a name I know, okay? She's the former U.S. Deputy Envoy to Combat Anti-Semitism. She's the co-founder of the National Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism. All right, so you guys know, I think anti-Semitism historically is like when a culture is about to just tap out on anything good, it just embraces these tropes. It's a historical human sign for we're knuckle draggers now, historically. Like going down the road of the Jews never makes a society better. I can't think of one time it worked out in the end, okay? And it won't work out in the end here either. So on the surface, just in terms of her profile, you'd probably think I'm going to line up with where she's at, right? Wrong. Because here is what she posted today. She posted the clip that Aaron just played of Tucker. And Tucker Carlson finally comes clean. He's working against the Republican Party. In case this requires explaining America as a two-party system, if you are against Republicans, then you are for Democrats. And I want to share with you what I said in response back to her. With all due respect, this is a fundamentally flawed line of attack against Tucker Carlson, and it will backfire. Much of the GOP base is either just as frustrated with the Republican Party as Tucker is here, or they're a step or two away. In fact, as we speak, the Trump administration itself is expressing similar sentiments about the Republican Party. Look at the clip we talk about for 20 minutes on the show yesterday. J.D. Vance going after Republicans for caring more about Ukraine than the housing crisis in their own country, right? They're going after red state legislatures that don't want to gerrymander to improve the odds of winning the midterms next year. How often has Trump gotten angry, including just the other day again at the Senate, slow playing his appointments and not getting them done with the infamous blue slip or whatever the hell it's called? The GOP not getting rid of the filibuster. I could go on and on and on. Who's expressing more frustration with the Republican Party apparatus than Donald Trump and his administration is right now? They sound a lot like Tucker Carlson. And, we just went through a Virginia election where Winsome Sears got 62% of the Trump voters in Loudoun County. That's the county that delivered the governorship to Glenn Youngkin 4 years ago in Virginia. And she only got 62% of Trump voters in that county. Abigail Spansberger got 84% of Kamala voters. Have we not been talking about, unless Trump is on the ballot, how do we get our people to show up and vote for a Republican Party that they've just completely lost trust in? Have we not had all these shows over the last couple of years? Yes. The reason why our people show up for Trump and not for the Republican Party en masse is because they view him. And if you're Daniel Horowitz, you'll disagree with this. But, most people, and because Daniel thinks things through at a 47, level process. But outside of Daniel's ability to do that, most people see Donald Trump as the insurgent and disruptor against the unibrow, against the deep state. And that's why our people are more enthusiastic about him than they are the party, and it's not even close. That's why they vote for him at a higher level and clip than the party, and it's not even close. And so if you want to solidify Tucker Carlson's standing, you want to make him king, bleep, and Kong with the Republican base, attack him on this front from this degree, it will do it. You will brand him better than he is, and he's a master messenger, so you'll brand him better than he could brand himself. And so this gets into, can Zionism be an identity politic? And the answer is yes. Because when I'm starting to see, and I'm going to say this out loud right now because I'm seeing it from friends of mine, so count this as a friendly warning. And I don't have time to text you all individually, and I know a lot of you are listening, or the rest of you that don't, you're going to hear it from the rest of the group. So I'm just going to say this once, so this gets to everybody. To continually have Jewish conservatives lined up in a block against Tucker Carlson, especially at moments when he is saying things that are obviously correct. It is obviously correct that our base is beyond frustrated with the Republican Party. You may not like the way he messaged it. You may think he went too far. Fine. But fundamentally, he is exhibiting the heartbeat of our base. And to have every time he says something, no matter what it is, a block of Jewish conservatives with the same names over and over again go out there and lambaste him for it. I'm just telling you, To quote the great prophet, the Mandarin, or to paraphrase him, this isn't the way. Or the Mandalorian, I should say. This isn't the way. It's not the way. And it looks like, frankly, an identity politic is what it looks like. And it looks like you're actually feeding his narrative that it's Israel first, and as long as I'm on the right side of Israel, then it doesn't matter literally what other position I have. Again, you will lose the argument. And I'm on your side of the argument for the most part, not completely, but for the most part, because I'm not Jewish, I am a Christian. But for the most part, I am on your side of the argument. So take this again as a friendly warning. You will lose this argument if you keep doing this. He will rout you. If you keep telling Americans that what they think of Israel is the final ultimate filter for determining the veracity of their claims on virtually everything else, I am promising you this, you will lose. That won't work. And so when he turns around and says things like Zionism is an identity politic, that's what it looks like when you do that. I mean, I would imagine there's all kinds of people that disagree with Tucker on anti-Semitism and Israeli policy, and they don't want their daughters whored out on OnlyFans, and they don't want, the only thing that brings new jobs is another strip mall with a check cashing joint and a laundromat. Fair?
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's a lot of people that probably think that way. I happen to think that way, frankly. And I'm on your side in most of this, not all, but most of it. This is not the way. And if you want to demonstrate, you're the critical thinkers here, to just have an auto setting every time Tucker says something, especially when he is prophetically correct, not just politically correct, but everything he said, particularly in that second clip, is prophetic level of correctness. I mean, it speaks to both the meta of the moment and the substance of the moment in and of itself.
To give you an example, if he had said the exact same thing he said, except he substituted Donald Trump for the Republican Party, the reaction from our base would be diametrically opposite of what he actually said.
Correct. Also, if he had never said anything about Zionism, but said everything else he said, do you think that that probably gets mentioned? Probably not. I probably don't see virtually every Jewish conservative I know or have heard of, other than Daniel, for that matter. Because if there's anybody that hates the Republican Party more than Tucker, it's Daniel.
This is what I was talking about yesterday. We can't have the conversations we need to have because the idols are big and obvious and no one will do anything about them.
I promise you, if you're concerned about the alliance with Israel and anti-Semitism, I promise you, I'll say this to my former boss, Ted Cruz, who looks like he's getting ready to mount a presidential campaign on this topic. I mean, Ted has texted me more in the last 2 months, and it's all Israel anti-Semitism stuff. He has texted me more in the last 2 months than he has the last 2 years combined. So I'll say this to him too. I'll say it because I just don't have time to get to everybody. So let me just say it out loud here on my own platform so all can hear me at once and the people in the back. I promise you, the way you will lose is if you are bound and determined to make somebody's position on Israel a matching yours to be the determiner of their standing and integrity in our coalition. I promise you will lose. And Nick Fuentes is just over here like that meme with the black guy around the tree doing one of these, licking his lips. You know that meme we all used during where they're eating the cats thing in Haiti? You know what meme I'm talking about, right? Yeah. He's in the yellow sport coat. He's doing this. Nick Fuentes is just over there, man. Just doing, yeah, you bet. You're right, man. Let's just make this whole thing. Let's make Israel and Jews. Let's just make it the absolute barometer for everybody's character and integrity as a human being. You bet. That's the game I want to play. You're walking right into, to quote the great prophet Admiral Akbar, it's a trap. You're walking right into it. You'll lose. I promise you will lose. Before I move on, I want to make sure I don't do to you guys what I did yesterday, which is look up and realize we're 40 seconds before the break when I get done. So now that I threw that out there, your thoughts?
Well, honestly, listening to both of those clips in the montage back to back, that's the Steve Deace show in essence, going back. Salvation comes to individuals, not groups. Steve making abundantly clear, whatever you think of it, that Christian Zionism is a very new guest to the 2,000 years of Christian history. And then obviously the part about by the way, the Republican Party sucks. That's Steve's entire career. So this is not like some new level of...
Well, there's that. That does sound like a lot of stuff I've said for 20 years.
This is not new triangulation about how to, dealing with Trump world has been okay, this is a new reality. Actually, that entire thing, Steve's analysis from Tucker, is Steve's analysis going back, 10 and 15 years about Republicans and applied faith.
I saw the commentary on the first clip regarding Zionism, threats to Western civilization, and before I listened to the clip, I thought, oh boy, oh gosh, what are we doing here? I'm not really sure if Tucker knows what Zionism is. You brought up an angle to this, Steve, that I hadn't considered when working in a block in opposition to things that are obviously true about the Republican Party, the state of the Republican Party. Most people, when listening to that, take away, analyze this in a vacuum. If anybody would have said, we have to actively work against the Republican Party most of the time because they are just so duplicitous. Who's going to disagree with that?
Right.
What honest observer, unless your name is, Rhino McRhino, what honest observer is going to disagree with that statement out here in the cheap seats? Nobody. That's who. So when you say it comes out against the Republican Party, talk to me. Okay, cool. So again, there are obvious things that make me very much wince. I saw people coming out saying yesterday as well, people I like, and saying, well, he just keeps, this is beyond the pale. This is the final straw with Tucker Carlson. Well, I think you can criticize the one thing about, Zionism that he said, but that was very much a throwaway comment in the context of we judge people by the individual, not by their group. That was the entire impetus of that clip. You can squabble with that one little statement there, but I don't think you can do that. I don't think you cannot throw away the rest of what he said, which is something, in fairness to him, again, that he made the point to. I listened to the entire conversation with Nick Fuentes. I wish he would have pushed back a little bit harder, but that's something that he made the point to his face, Nick Fuentes, multiple times in that conversation. It is not a Christian ideal to judge people based on their group. God judges the individual, not the group.
Yeah, really quick. When I hear Ted Cruz or Mike Huckabee's been doing, when I hear them talk about the nation of Israel, as a Catholic, that's entirely foreign to me. So I get the notion of that just sounding strange, and it doesn't mean you're suddenly anti-Semitic. And secondly, because you brought it up, Steve, and I just forgot to bring it up, Tucker's absolutely right about his analysis of strip malls and all that stuff. He is indicting the whole capitalism. Once it becomes, there's just too much money, and you get that excuse, and that's why
it's just soulless. It's just a transaction.
To the cockfighting thing,
he's been saying that for years.
Yes,
that's what happened to college sports. I totally resent that. He's talking about subsidiarity. Government should be close to you, and if it's not socialism to say, I don't want that crappy thing in my backyard, and yes, I can be. If capitalism now is OnlyFans, guys, what the hell is this?
Correct. Capitalism is in response to the reality of human nature. Capitalism is not meant to be in place of it or rule over it. The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. If anything, that's among the best, most insightful, most correct, most prophetic things that Tucker has said this entire year. Maybe the most. In fact, that's as prophetic and insightful as anybody has said on anything that I've heard this year.
If he was running for president,
quickly,
I would vote for him based on most
on that
of the
platform.
Things we heard. Yes.
Yeah. And if you don't want to if you want Zionism to be seen as an identity politic, then don't make it your identity politic. All right, friends, Thanksgiving is here, and that means Black Friday is right around the corner, and Kexi is about to launch the biggest deals you'll see from them all year. Now, who's Kexi? You haven't heard me slobbering all over Kexi most of this year. They are the thick, gooey, over-the-top cookies. It's like a company was formed just for me to buy their product. What's my favorite food? Gooey cookies.
12-year-old food.
Yeah, I mean, I've not left the 6th grade, Todd. You know that. Yes. I peaked. It's just been expansion ever since. All right. These are the thick, gooey, over-the-top cookies everyone keeps talking about, and Black Friday is absolutely the time to stock up because the deals coming on Friday are the best they can offer, period. So here's what you need to do. Head over to Kexi.com, K-E-K-S-I, and get ready by signing up for their emails and texts. You're going to be the first to know the moment the sale goes live. And on top of their main Black Friday sale, their new holiday cookies are also going to be available, so don't wait. These cookies are incredible. Incredible. That's my 5-star review. Absolutely, holy crap, incredible. So once again, go to Kexi.com, sign up now so you get the alerts right to you when the biggest sale of the year and new holiday boxes go live. K-E-K-S-I is where you want to go. That's K-E-K-S-I, Kexi.com. There's one more thing I want to say as a postscript on this conversation about the straight up prophesying that Tucker Carlson does in those clips that we just showed you from Aaron's montage. This is why, even while being very critical of the approach that he took to pasteurize Nick Fuentes was the word I used. This is also why I was very adamant, no, we're not canceling Tucker, not that I think you could probably do it anyway. He owns everything. You couldn't cancel me if you wanted to. I'm not nearly, I can't hold his jockstrap in terms of reach, but like him, I own everything I do. You couldn't cancel me if you tried. I own it all. Literally, the only thing that can cancel me, only one who can cancel me literally is God. No matter what scandal, what happened, even if the Blaze dropped me, I could just literally just drop a show the next day in my own podcast feed like nothing ever happened. I own it all. Can't be canceled by anyone other than God. Well, he does that at an even bigger level. So even if you wanted to, you couldn't anyway. But the reason why we're not going to do it is, again, I have a deep conviction, particularly since Charlie's murder, that some of us have got to carry on his wish of keeping this coalition together as best as we can before the last outpost of Western civilization is gone for good. And just as attempting to whitewash Nick Fuentes takes a lot of our people that have the contemporary Israel view and the Christian evangelical base and our Jewish friends and makes them all very, 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 very nervous, right? We talked about that, right? Well, turning around and saying, but we're going to take maybe the biggest show we now have with Charlie gone. And we're going to get rid of him because he's saying things about Israel and Jews that, frankly, much of Christianity said for the first 1,800 years of the faith. That risks the coalition going in the other direction. And I'm against that. And here is the thing. We need people with the platform that Tucker has to say the things that he said right there on another very large platform. I don't know that anybody's single show anywhere has grown more in the last year of 2025 than Sean Ryan's has. I mean, there are moments he pulls almost Rogan-like numbers. Those are the things that need to be said. The hard things that need to be said. Well, Steve, how does this not apply to Fuentes then? He may be objectively right on some things. Fuentes has a body of work that cannot hold the earlobe of Tucker Carlson's, let alone his jockstraps. It's also, I have no tolerance. Did you see Candace's new thing? Guys, they're trying to kill me, and at the behest of the Trump administration, I'm taking the rest of the week off, which, the same week that literally everybody in America almost takes off over the Thanksgiving holiday. I mean, it's just a complete grifting scam. But Candace has contributed nothing overall, nothing. All she's done is taken from this. Candace had the unique timing of being an attractive black woman that would say rehearsed things to white people tired of being called racist for 50 years. And now that she's run out of scripts, now we're just going to do make it up, gadfly, National Enquirer, the aliens are coming and the French are trying to kill me and it's the Jews again. All right, for money. And of course she's making huge money doing that. You think those tabloids said in the checkout aisle of your supermarkets your entire life because nobody was reading them? The exact opposite was true. It is, as my oldest daughter Anastasia described it, it's sports bro for women is what it is. Give me the soap opera, give me the melodrama, give me the scoop, give me there's got to be something behind the scenes that I know that nobody else knows. It's sports bro for chicks. So there's not a body of, what's that?
That can't go well.
No, It can't. Right? It's like what Jack Nicholson said. Well, first I take a man and then I remove, right? Okay, yes, yeah, there you go. All right, so there's no body of work from Candace Owens to justify whatever magical mystery tour or griftathon she currently is Jerry Lewising her way through, okay? And there's no body of work, there's no objective contribution from Nick Fuentes that I can't get from somebody else that doesn't come with all of the baggage that he not only owns up to, but brags about. But Tucker has a body of work that rivals any living person on the right in its totality and impact. Find me any body of work that for the years he was on Fox News had more of a positive impact on our side and on the country in terms of content generation than his. You won't find one. So yeah, he gets a lot more rope than the other clowns I just mentioned do. A lot more. Because also what you heard him say to Sean Ryan in that clip, the Zionist remark aside, those other two people I just mentioned with their double-digit IQs couldn't possibly attempt to have that conversation. If you're thinking, well, maybe we can, you know what, Steve, maybe we can have these conversations without trying to make actually Hitler a thing. Maybe we can. Guess what? Go do them then. Instead of sitting around and just having a block of Jewish conservatives all waiting to pounce on literally anything he says, no matter how right it is at the moment, which will just feed the narrative that he is promoting. So you're just walking right into that, by the way. Instead of, he's betraying the Republican Party, why don't you go tell the Republican Party to stop betraying us? And just call your congressman and say, hey, how many of President Trump's executive orders being codified did you vote on this year? How many, forget if you voted the right way, how many did you even just vote on? How many did you even vote on? Thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I don't, there's no way out but through on this. I think too much all in has happened at this poker table, and I'm worried about the mess and how long it's going to take just to sort through this. That's kind of Sola versus Sola thing going on. I don't know where it ends. I just think people are pot committed at this point.
I agree with the sentiment. There's a lot more rope when it comes to Carlson, but ultimately we come back to the very beginning when this became a topic of discourse over the past couple of months, which is the only way out is through. So don't know what the out is.
Right.
Don't know what that out is.
Exactly.
We will come out somewhere. But the only way to figure that out, the only way to pass the outcome is to come to the outcome. So I don't know yet again. I just, at the risk of sounding Pollyannish or what have you, you can fight and there will be continued fights. I don't know. I just don't know what the outcome of this. That's all I'm trying to say. None of us know what the outcome of this is. I think there are certain people who are trying to navigate this as best as they can while trying to keep the meta up here view of the coalition in order while, separating from the wheat from the chaff at the micro level. But again, this kind of intra-party fighting or intra-coalition fighting, I don't think anybody can game plan this out. I don't think there's any AI algorithm out there in existence that can telegraph, if you will, to mix technological innovations. I don't think there's any technology out there that can predict the end of this.
Like with COVID, the rubber band never bounced back like we thought it would with this thing. You would think this is the time culturally where our differences would be set aside. We'd be making the main thing where, the devil is making himself known. We must bring our forces together. The opposite is happening. We are fracturing as a Christian people more and more and more when we need the opposite.
I think there's I love the fact that you joined the fact there was never a rubber band with COVID with this. And as soon as you said that, like a light bulb went off over my head when you said that, brother. Knowing what we know now, we had to go through COVID. We had to go through it. And what was the aftermath of it? What was the aftermath of the scandemic? Is the church and the conversations we're having within the church and about the faith, are they better today than they were before COVID? I would argue unquestionably. It's not even a debatable point. It's not even a debatable point. People are more willing to see things through a spiritual lens than they were on our side, than they were before COVID. We are openly having more spiritual conversations than we were before COVID. We are seeing a migration within the church. There are scores of pastors around the country. I know, I've met many of them, and I go to the church of one of them. That COVID was essentially God's wake-up call. You are the very wimp that caused all of this. You are the problem. It's you. And then they changed direction and got back into prophetic preaching again. The kinds of the debates we are having now, at least let's agree to this. The debates we are having now, the depth and richness of the debates we are having now are way better than what they were in 2018, 2017, 2019. Is that even a debatable point?
Don't think so.
I don't even think it is. It's not a debatable point.
No, I think that's true.
And I think we had to go through it because if there's one thing God's good and great at everything. But one of the things that he's really great at, we often forget because it's one of the most painful things to experience is when the master gardener prunes his garden. Cuts weeds out. Plucks the weeds, takes the ones that aren't growing but are in the way of the ones that want to grow and could grow if they weren't soaking up the nutrients in the sun, and removes them. And I think we saw that now during COVID. We now realize we had allies that we didn't ever think we could possibly have. We had enemies that we thought for sure were our allies, and that was never true, and we learned that. COVID was a very clarifying moment. And there's been a series of them. But within that series of them, COVID was the most clarifying moment. And I think now, based on what you just said, I think we just have to go through this. I do. And I think what is very likely going to happen is, just as I ended up realizing I had allies that I don't agree with everything on, but they are at least willing to fight with me on the things that we do agree on. And there were a lot of other people and leaders that claimed to agree with me on a lot of things, but weren't really willing to really fight on any of those things. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think the same thing's going to happen here. And I can already see it happening just to me personally. I find myself, frankly, I find myself when Tucker is not re-entertaining the German events in World War II, or discussing, Zionism. I'm not even sure. I'd love to just ask him, what do you even think it is? But short of that, I pretty much find myself in agreement with him, like on virtually like everything else. And I think choices may just have to be made. And, listen, I love Mike Huckabee to death. Frankly, I'm one of the reasons Mike Huckabee is where he's at right now, if we're just going to be brutally honest about this. Think Mike Huckabee wins the Iowa caucuses if not for the Steve Deace Show?
There's not a chance.
Not a chance. And therefore, do you think he ever goes on to become a millionaire, get his own show on Fox News? If my show doesn't become a Mike Huckabee telethon, does he win? Probably doesn't survive the straw poll and is out of the race before we even get to the caucuses.
I guess anything's possible with God, but there's not a path that I see to it happen.
Correct.
Short of that.
Correct. Now, I've always said candidates win campaigns, not talk show hosts, but I did the work for him that he did not have the money to do so that he could then close the sale on his own. Okay, he did close the sale on his own. But without my show, he never even gets to the counter to make the sale. So I would argue without my show, guy's never a millionaire, never gets a show on Fox, and he's not ambassador to Israel today. That being said, even though I largely agree with Mike on the Israel debate, since the 2008 Iowa caucuses and right now, how many times has Mike Huckabee rolled up his sleeves and fought alongside me on something?
If anything, perhaps the opposite.
Perhaps the opposite is true. And we even had the same literary agent. Couldn't even get him to put me on his show to help me promote my books. We had the same literary agent. How many times has Tucker done it? Just since 2018. So he doesn't, a decade, forget that he's a decade behind in timing. Since 2018, how often, either directly, like putting me on to promote Fauci and Bargain, or indirectly by essentially mimicking and mirroring many of the same things we say, but on a much higher platform level than we could possibly reach ourselves. How many times, directly or indirectly, has Tucker been plowing in the same row I'm working in?
Actually, especially when you include when our language during a period of time was almost identical, and we were wondering, do they watch our show? I would say countless is the answer.
And so I may just have to be aligned with people that I'm just going to yell at about Israel and Jews all the time. Because if the choice is get Israel and Jews right, but just give up on the country and surrender everything, or get everything else right, but get that wrong, I guess I'll just have to yell at you about Jews and Israel and try to correct you guys on what I think you're just completely stupid, naive, and wrong on. Because the most important priority I have is saving my own country. And that should be the most important priority to everybody within the sound of my voice. And on that, he's largely right. Hour 2 is next. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Todders and Aaron McIntyre and all of you, and you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then if you are a podcast listener, make sure you hit subscribe on your podcast platform, or if it's Apple iTunes, you hit follow. That'll make sure every time we do a new episode, it's right there in your podcast feed. You can also leave us a 5-star review, whichever podcast platform you prefer. Tens of thousands of you guys have done that. Thank you very much. And gals, thank you very much for each and every one of those. They are appreciated, and we appreciate it as well if you would add yours here today. And we appreciate our friends over at Masa. They're about bringing real food back as part of the growing movement to bring back real food. The kind that our grandparents ate before snacks were made in labs. You ever seen some of those pics, guys? Like teen parties from the 50s. And everybody's drinking like full sugar sodas. Mm-hmm. And there's like masses of chips and candies and everything. You ever seen those pictures?
Sure.
And like everybody weighs like, $1.05. Those pictures like blow my mind, right? How did this happen? Okay. Well, it's a lot of it is where do we source our food? Masa's chips, they contain just 3 ingredients. Corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. That's it. No seed oils, no mystery chemicals, just real food. And they're chips that not only avoid all the bad stuff, they taste incredible too. And a little sneaky thing, they're very dense. Aaron pointed this out to me the first time we tried these. So like maybe you guys don't know, the origin of Guinness beer is a Catholic priest was very concerned about how many people were getting drunk in Ireland. So he made the actual richest beer he could. Instead of trying to get them to stop drinking, he knew that was never going to happen. So he made actually the richest beer he could so that they wouldn't be able to drink as much and get drunk as fast. All right? That's kind of, Aaron pointed this out right away. The first time we tried these chips are thick. They are dense. You can't put down like a bag of these. Like you can the stuff with all the ingredients you can't pronounce, And that's because they're made with real food, so they're satiating. So if you're looking for the best Black Friday deal on Masa, they offer you guys Black Friday levels of savings of up to 25% off on your very first purchase if you use the code DEACE. Use the code DACE for 25% off your first order at Masa Chips, M-A-S-A, MasaChips.com. MasaChips.com. Again, that's MasaChips.com. All right, and you'll get 25% off if you use the code DACE at Masa Chips, M-A-S-A, MasaChips.com. All right, are we ready for some buy, sell, or hold?
Let's launch.
Let's do this. Aaron has your submissions. Todd and I have yet to see them. We're about to see them now. All right. Here's how it works. Aaron lays out said submission. Todd, you and I decide, are we going to buy it? Are we going to sell it? Maybe even offer a reason why we're making this choice. And of course, because it is called buy, sell, or hold, you are permitted to hold, but given the affront that is to your masculinity, a steep price must be paid, right? So if you choose to punk out and use your hold, brother, you've got to help Lindsey Graham stuff the turkey this Thanksgiving, brother. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's let it rip.
All right, our first one might be in the running for the fastest submission we've ever ever taken in terms of introduction and buying or selling. Uncontexted Dace 2 says a federal judge has already reversed Trump's turkey pardon.
Bye.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice.
That's a good start.
And if we can't get them to defy a federal order on the turkey pardon, then at this point, maybe they're just never going to do it. Right. Bye.
Jonathan says, since it's now past November 15th and in accordance with the Dace-Erzin Accords, Mount Rushmore of Christmas commercial themes, Hershey's Kisses, Bells of Christmas.
That's good.
3, the Budweiser Clydesdales.
That's a throwback, man, and that's absolute, from our childhood, you bet, tradition. I love seeing that, watching old sporting events on YouTube, and like if it takes place during the holidays and those old Clydesdale commercials come up with that jingle, that's good stuff, man. That's America right there.
Number 2, M&Ms, they do exist. We just saw this. I don't know if it was on live television or we were streaming, but it was an ad in a current lineup of ads. But the M&Ms, they do exist commercial came up.
I've got to sell on behalf of my wife. She has a problem with the talking M&Ms.
She's okay.
I don't know why.
All right,
but it's there.
All right, so I'll join. I'll sell on that too.
And number 1, Coca-Cola Polar Bears.
Yeah, I mean that's a classic. But doesn't it feel like we're missing something?
Well, I'm sure we're missing a whole list of potential.
It feels like
as you said, the Budweiser Clydesdales are kind of, I think, grafted in there, but I think we must be missing.
It feels like there's an obvious one that we're missing that 15 of you are going to email into my inbox here in a minute. But all right, so he's 3 out of 4. Is that good enough for an overall buy?
Yeah,
sure.
All right, buy. Okay.
Andrew Plaster says Kash Patel will resign as FBI director within 6 months.
I don't believe Kash Patel will resign of his own volition. It may be called a resignation, but I don't believe he's going to go in and do some kind of noble thing and say, hey, I think the administration could just do better than me. I don't think that at all. It may be called a resignation if and when it goes down, but I don't think. So what's the context of the term resign, I guess is what I'm asking.
He's acting like a captured individual, like he can't get out.
Right. That's exactly why I don't think.
Yeah. I
mean, to me, you resign like remember the rumors earlier this year over the Epstein thing. There were that Bongino had not shown up for like a staff meeting or something, and there were several righty influencers on our side saying, hey, they're hearing from sources. I wonder if their source was Dan, that he's thinking of resigning and leaving as deputy director. See, you resign. There's 2 kinds of resigns. The one kind of resign is, hell no. Okay. Well, there's 3 kinds of resigns in politics. One is, hell no. All right. The other is like when I offered to resign to Ted because I had done something colossally stupid during a debate and cost us an entire news cycle of terrible headlines. So you go in there and realize you're the duck. They found the duck on the pond and it is you. All right. And so you have to go in there and own it. All right. I don't see Kash doing either of those 2. Does Kash strike you as the table pounder?
No.
He's going to go Al Pacino in Justice for All at the end. All right, Jimmy Stewart and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and lay it down. Is that Kash strike you as that guy?
No.
Does Kash strike you as the honorable? You're right. I'm the F up here, and you got to let me go. Does he strike you as that guy?
No.
All right. So then the only other kind of resignation that exists in politics is, we don't want to have to say we fired you, so you resigned. It's a way for you to save face, but you're fired. So are we? So which form of resignation are we referring to here? Any of them, or only one of them?
I get the one you're talking about, and you predicted earlier. You said one of those is going to happen but I don't see it. I don't see it. I need something. I need new evidence to be able to see that.
I do think over Christmas, and I think it's way more likely to be Bondi. One of them will be gone. I do, but I think it's way more likely to be Bondi.
J-Man says, okay, one more thing on this, actually.
Okay.
Is there any thought here? Because who is Kash Patel's boss, direct superior?
Bondi.
Yeah. Do we need to extend any more benefit of the doubt / rope to Patel and Bongino because of who their direct superiors
If that
are?
is your position, I am okay with it. I'm okay with it.
So we really are going to believe that beyond the bedazzled Barbie, I can't do almost anything right, it seems, publicly. She's like an iron fist that is keeping...
I did not say that, but I can't definitively say no either, right? Which is why if that is your position and Bondi goes, I'm okay with it, because supposedly everybody expects the successor is Andrew Bailey. Well, who's Andrew Bailey? The former attorney general from the state of Missouri. Bailey is the guy that got Fauci under oath in that brutal deposition of the demonic little fiend. Right? So, like, what do you think was like, before Pam Bondi got this job, one of my favorite college football podcasts likes to do this thing where when a team plays very poorly, they'll joke with each other. What was your favorite first down that they had? What was your favorite pass completion? That kind of thing, right? Okay. What was your favorite Pam Bondi sticking it to the deep state before she became AG? What was your favorite one?
Who?
Exactly. That's my point. Andrew Bailey's already done something. Pam Bondi's never done anything. She's just a GOP lifer that's rebranded herself a million times. She's had to be a Romulan. She's had to be a MAGAite. She's just a GOP lifer. Okay, that's all she is. She's been around for
Which is probably why she was picked. So
that's probably why she was picked to some degree, although I think also maybe because she looks the part of what Trump tries to look for in that position. Okay. So Bailey, if he were to get that job, he has some street cred she's never had. So then I guess you would walk in, and at that point, if Kash still sucks, then he's kind of out of excuses. Like when the head coach fires the coordinator and the team still sucks, there's no one to blame but you. So we're all trying to navigate here that we have relationships either directly with some of these people, or in the case of people who do like what, on this side of the microphone, like me, or we indirectly have liked and admired the work of these people in the past, like what you guys think on the other side of the microphone. And so we're all trying to figure out, man, I really thought I had this person pegged. I really thought I knew this person. Why are they clown college right now? What is going on? Why don't I trust this person? And I think as we're all trying to figure that out, giving each other grace to try to figure it out on our own, I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, I don't. Just Democrats would have filled up the jails by now. That's all I'm saying.
I don't. That's of course true. That's of course true.
J-Man says, we all agree that Wizard of Oz is an untouchable classic, but Return to Oz is actually the closest Hollywood got to adapting Baum's books faithfully. Parenthetically, just wants to know Steve's take on Return to Oz.
So I've never read the books, only saw the movie as a kid, and then 10 million times since. I have tried to watch Return to Oz, and yikes, the movie version.
I didn't even know there was one. When was it made?
I think it's like late 80s. The gal, is it Faruka something is her name, who plays Adam Sandler's girlfriend in The Waterboy. She plays Dorothy, I think, in the movie version of this.
Never even heard of
it.
Yeah,
it's brutal. Not a good watch. So that's why you haven't heard of it. That's why you, despite having 4 daughters, have never heard of Return to Oz, because been buried like Star Wars Christmas special level buried. It's bad. So I'll buy it because I've not read the book, so I have to buy. I'd take your word for it that it's more faithful, I guess. Sure. Okay. I just know it's not good. I know that.
Jeff Gibson says too many people treat God like a college student treats their parents. They only reach out to him when they need money or some help. when they're in trouble or on Easter and Christmas.
Bye, and we're all guilty of this. I mean, we all have said more times than we want to admit, the only thing we have left to do is pray. Which when you stop and think about it, okay, when you look at it logically, to say, all right, I've exhausted what I'm able to do, let me take my petition to the only undefeated being in the universe and see if he's got something for me. I mean, it sounds dumb. When we say it out loud, how stupid does this sound? But because as my old buddy Todd Freely used to say, our brains are busted because of sin. We all do this. The minute we face something that is beyond ourselves or we think could get beyond ourselves, we all have this immediate instinct to fix it ourselves. That whole, like we're God. Which, of course, is the source of our sin, thinking that we can be like God. And then when it, of course, doesn't work, and it goes anywhere from blowing up in our faces to inspiring Black Mirror episodes, that's when we turn around and look at each other and say, all right, all we have left to do is pray. Raise your hand if in the sound of my voice, if you've ever done this. Literally every single hand is up, except for people who are just lying, demonstrating their original sin. We've all done this. We have all done this. It's the human condition. And that's where the challenge has to be. That's why finding a good church, having a good group of people that you can, fellowship with, be held accountable with, and have you held them accountable as well, so that we don't end up doing stupid stuff like, I really tried to fix everything. I couldn't make it work. And so now that my kids hate me and my wife left me and I lost my job, I'm going to pray and see what God's thinking. We've all done this. So bye.
Next, we go to John Endicott, who says the winner of the game is often won between the ears more so than between the lines.
So for people that don't know,
Ohio State,
Michigan is called the game, like Alabama, Auburn's the Iron Bowl, right? So there's a lot of truth to that, actually.
It's not just the game. It's just any rivalry. You're more likely to have a out of body, this doesn't make sense on paper experience. And,
yes.
That's why the best part of why we have these games is for that reason, to transcend an opportunity to do that. And it's why it's why it's such a damn shame that we are ruining it per your montage today, Aaron. We are debasing the potential for the quality of the human experience because of what we're turning into it. It's just becoming an immoral enterprise, quite frankly.
Next, we go to Ryan the Christo-fascist, who says the "we need to go back" argument ultimately will fail because conservatives can't agree on when to go back to. You have one side that wants to go back to the founding and the other that wants to go back to the 1980s. One built a nation, the other was the beginning of the end. By Sellerhold.
I think this is a valid point, but I'm going to sell because in either case, it would be a massive win. Just one is way more sustainable than the other, but in either case, it would be a massive win. I think if you're young, I would love to know how old Ryan is and if he lived through the 80s. And I would really urge you guys, when you're home for the holidays, go on YouTube. I do this all the time. And just, go watch election night coverage, 80, 84, 88. The actual, TV footage of those years from the major networks with commercials are there. Todd will hate this, but go watch episodes of the NFL Today from the 80s. And here's what you're going to see. A lot of racial integration. All kinds of football games where black people were calling the game or doing color commentary or doing the studio hosting. I know you're being told right now that Kunta was just freed from the last episode of Roots with the Obama election. I know many of you are being told this. But the truth of the matter is, it's not the truth. You're going to see you actually get to see human skin. Not everything's a tat sleeve. Not everything's pierced. People showered. Like Democrats said we should execute more criminals. You're just going to see it's an entirely different country is what you're going to see. It could not be more different than the one we're in right now. Most popular shows, Cosby, Webster, Different Strokes, all starring black people. I know, Kunta just got freed. Did not get freed until Michelle Obama straightened her hair to become first lady. I know that's true. I know. Except for those of us who lived through that period of time, we also know we've done all this. We did all these struggle sessions. We got to the other side, man. We're good. We're good. In fact, we got so good that when there was finally a great white NBA player, everybody was okay with him talking trash to the black guys. We got through it all. We made it through. We worked ourselves out. We got through the civil rights era. Mistakes were made, colossal cosmic ones. Corrections were installed. We got to the end. Everybody liked the same movies. Everybody went to the same schools. Did I say we had no problems? Did I say that in anything that I just said? No. But fundamentally, it could not be any different than where we are right now. It's like Oz, to use a previous question. It's like you stepped into a portal to another Earth. Just totally different. So either one would be a massive win. That's where I would disagree. So I'll sell.
You're right. Not agreeing on that would ultimately make it fail. But I still have to sell because if your solution about moving forward is the way, we can't agree about that either right now. So ultimately, this doesn't really have to do with forward or back. It has to do with what our idols are and are we willing to smash them. And the difference between right now and the 80s Steve is talking about, and there were some big idols then, but they're bigger now and more varied, and there is both on the male and the female side, the fundamentals, we just don't even know what a football is anymore, and we're happy about it. We could be more easily shamed back then. Right now, we are rich, poor, white, black. It's almost impossible to shame somebody these days. They just want what they want. That's the fundamental problem.
Going back, double dipping with Jonathan. Steve and Aaron should angrily talk over each other, Todd and the guests, even more on the show. It makes the discussion as clear as the view.
I couldn't agree more. I'll buy. In fact, we were just having this conversation before the show.
Steve and I are constantly talking, angrily talking over Todd and the guest. Right? Yes.
I got to be honest, John. I mean, maybe you think you're doing me. I don't feel like that's a reality of the show at all. I mean, I bet, I'm quite certain I've angrily talked over people, not to be a jerk, but I mean, everybody's just, you go as the spirit moves you. But I'm not entirely sure what that's all about. When was that, Aaron, to your point? What show was that written about? I don't
know. It was just submitted 17 hours ago. Okay. Like that. Red 5 says, a man does not run in the airport unless there are zombies.
Oh, sell. I had to, coming back from Tim Pool's show last year, massive traffic jams in D.C., accidents. We had 17 minutes from the time we pulled up to Reagan National to when our plane left the gate. 17 friggin' minutes. Okay? So, yeah, you run. Yeah, and I did.
You catch that flight. Yeah. For sure.
So sell. I would love to know what prompted this.
No idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of what I would like to know as well. But interesting nonetheless.
Okay.
Phyllis Ann Saturn says, this was everyone's face when Aaron had to explain the eggplant reference to Steve.
I still don't know what it is, but I love that. That is tremendous. That is great. I am guffawed. Todd is tapped out. Aaron is like, are you kidding me? Yes.
What's bizarre about that is you are the self-proclaimed master of pop culture, and you didn't know. I still
don't know what it is. I don't.
It's bleak.
Yeah. Is it bleak?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I have no idea what it is. I don't. It's also not something I've Googled because you guys gave me the impression it's a not safe for work violation.
That's wise. I wouldn't.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Because I don't want that on my already extensive Department of Homeland Security file. Indeed. Yes.
Yes. Two-spirit. Is it gerbil or gerbil? I can never. This is like one of the words. Is it
I think
gerbil?
Richard Gere pronounces it both ways.
Okay, I've heard it both ways. We are within a year of a very severe economic crash. Multiple businesses in my area are closing due to inability to staff. People won't work for the wages offered. Prices of goods and services are still going up. There's no way they can Band-Aid this.
There's a possibility this is true. So I will buy. I don't think it's a strong possibility, though, because for the very reasons that this is happening. Much of the entire economy is manufactured. So somebody has to call the note. Somebody has to call the note. Which is another way of declaring war on the United States of America. Who wants to go to war with the United States of America? Now, you know what? Let me do this. If you're against tariffs, you guys are making all the wrong arguments. You're making arguments that are actually helping Trump's case. The best argument to make against tariffs is what I'm saying right here, which is, one of the reasons that Japan attacked on Pearl Harbor is because we didn't like their actions in China and the Pacific Theater. So we put an oil embargo on Japan. And then we encouraged the rest of the world not to sell them oil too. And it so crippled them economically that we backed them into a corner. We backed the empire into the corner that the emperor had no choice at that point rather than to face his own demise, his own coup. He had no choice at that point but to listen to the zealots telling him the United States, we have to attack the United States. And that's your argument, that if we continue to punitively punish these other countries, we may back them into a corner where they feel like, well, you guys have left us no alternative then. To me, that's the argument I would be making if I were you guys. And I'll stop trying to help you. Because the rest of your arguments really don't make any sense and feed Trump's argument for why he's doing what he's doing.
I agree with it up until the very, very end, and it had to do with Steve. I mean, it's all bad. But then we are, the way we are consumers now versus citizens does play how we can be manipulated along the line Steve is talking about in terms of calling the note. I mean, I think a lot of this is as much, it's like you talked about the game between the ears, the psychology of this. It's not just, my point is, it's not just pure economics. And I don't know, everybody's always looking for the moments on how to play the chessboard on this. And when I say everybody, some are the players we know, some are the players we don't. All I'm saying is I just don't think it's fundamentally an economic game.
All right, next up we go to Never Again, who says Hallmark will have a new Christmas movie that takes place in a European Christmas market, reminiscent of West Side Story, but with machetes.
Sure you don't want to go with the curved sword of Islam? Just lean all the way into the trope while we're at it. I'm going to sell. But I see what you did there.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going to buy.
Fair. Yep.
Matt's Collection says best turkey sandwich, Thanksgiving leftovers edition. 1, rye bread with seed. Sourdough is also acceptable.
Not a rye bread guy. Love sourdough. So since you made it acceptable, okay.
Mixture of white and dark meat.
I'm just not a huge dark meat guy. I'm just not. So I'm way more of a white meat guy. So I'm going to sell on that one.
Stuffing on this sandwich.
If we're talking stovetop, America stuffing, buy.
And mayonnaise on this sandwich. Should be stacked pretty high, Matt's Collection says.
Oh, Miracle Whip's way better than normal mayonnaise, but I'm a mustard guy anyway. So I'm a mustard
Miracle
guy.
Whip?
I could eat regular mayonnaise just plain out of the can.
Miracle Whip is way better than mayonnaise.
That's
way better.
That's ridiculous.
It's way better than mayonnaise. It's way better.
Yeah,
that being
that's
said,
like saying eating air is way better than eating
I know.
ice cream.
It's just so.
That's a tad over the top.
Oh, it's like perfect, Aaron. That's a great diagnosis.
But I'm more of a mustard with with a little ranch, just to give it like a creamy, consistency. But I'm a mustard in general, unless I'm making like tuna. In general, I'm a mustard over Miracle Whip or mayo guy. Period. Anyway, like burgers, I don't ever get mayo or anything. I'm always doing mustard.
You put mustard on your burgers?
Yeah, I'm a mustard guy. I like mustard a lot. I do.
I love mustard too, but mustard's for hot dogs.
Agreed. But I'm a mustard on my burger guy.
Okay.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with mustard on a burger, Todd. Nothing.
Oh, I wouldn't say it's heresy, but I would say that it's not a...
It's heterodoxical.
It's not a... Yeah, it is.
Okay. You're saying McDonald's is heterodoxical with their burgers? I mean, that's what you're saying. I don't want to get in a fight over this, but
it's just not a classic.
You're wrong and I'm right,
it's
and
not
there's
a
nothing
classic,
that you're going to convince me
I don't even
about.
think it's bad. They only put mustard on Freddy's burgers, and I think Freddy's burgers are really good. They're cooked right. The condiments are great. I'm just saying it's not a fundamental burger topping, is what I'm saying.
We have more submissions that we'll get to coming up in overtime. Whoopsie. I just previewed it there, including one. There's this Sesame Street book called The Monster at the End of This Book. You ever heard of that?
No.
There is a submission at the end of overtime. I have no idea what prompted it. I'm not even sure what it's talking about, but it made me laugh out loud. We will be discussing that in overtime, along with a number of other topics as well for bonus buy, sell, or hold.
All right. Coming up next, Daniel Horowitz going to give us the woe and lamentation. Stay tuned. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. Don't forget, we've got a huge Black Friday sale happening right now at the Blaze. You can get $40 off an annual Blaze TV subscription, which means you're going to get all of our coverage, all of our exclusive coverage, all the way through the end of next year's crucial midterms and the aftermath, right? So you can't beat it. If you're looking for the great Christmas gift for you or the discerning patriot that you're looking to buy for this year, get them the gift of Blaze TV and all of our exclusive content for $40 off. It comes down to now 4 cents a day. 13 cents a day, $4 a month. That's it. You can't beat it. All right. Black Friday 40 is the code. Black Friday 40 is the code. blazetv.com/Deace is where to go with the website. So go to blazetv.com/Deace. Use the code Black Friday 40 for the big discount with the code Black Friday 40 at blazetv.com/Deace. Let's bring in the prophet of woe and lamentation himself, Daniel Horowitz. Good to see you, my friend. And we run out of time at the end. I want to give you a presumptive happy Thanksgiving to you and your family here this weekend. So yesterday, I read an absolutely fascinating piece from ABC News that was texted to me by a buddy of mine who knows Steve Bannon pretty well, actually. And so he sent this to me. And if Bannon had not talked directly to ABC, I have no idea why we'd ever care what corporate media says about internal fights on our own side when obviously they're against us. But in this case, Steve Bannon chose to speak directly to ABC, which is why this mutual friend of ours sent this to me, and I decided to go ahead and read it. And I was very fascinated by the AI debate. And I have questions, because I know you feel very strongly about this. And I understand why people feel very strongly about it on either side. Let's start with the quality of life question, all right? And I genuinely don't know the answer. I'm asking questions, all right? Not just asking questions I know the answer to, not that kind of thing. I mean, I'm genuinely interested. Is working in a data center different than... Well, we had coal plants and there was soot in the air and that provided the jobs for the community. Well, I worked at the textile mill, and that wasn't the most exhilarating work I've ever done. Okay. Working on, doing that, but it provided jobs for the community. And I was largely kind of a cog in an assembly line machine. I put the collar on, the woman next to me put on the buttons, you know what I'm saying? And, out came everybody's shirts, right? But those jobs did, provide a way of life. Right? You see where I'm going with this? Make the case to me that the complaints about this are not any different than agrarian America in the late 19th century saying, well, if everybody moves to the cities and goes to work in the factories and joins the Industrial Revolution, then you'll become cogs in the machine and you won't be individual people. Why? Explain why this is not just the next step in that kind of evolution, and we're not just having the same complaints as before.
I love the way you ended that, the next step in the evolution. So the next industrial revolution would look like narrow AI, quantum computing, would look like, dangerous repetitive tasks, farming, welding, where you program a robot, which actually you can do on a laptop, and it mechanizes things. For example, look at China's ports, the way China is running their ports. If you kind of Google around with that, you'll see that they're way ahead of us with that. Yet they have 1/20th the number of data centers we have. It's a matter of what they're using it for, and based on what government favors, they are pushing an unsustainable model to push the most painful, least productive, most harmful part of AI with the most government favors. So to be clear, I am not against AI. AI is what it is. It's like, do you ever remember during George W. Bush's term, Apple and other CEOs coming into the White House every minute, having Operation Stargate or something where the government's going to introduce the iPhone? No, I mean, it just happened, and government had nothing to do with it. What you're having here is that they're asking every locality to unnaturally grant land, water, and power favors for something that we don't even grant the very power plants that supply all of us with power this degree of latitude, much less something that's going to suck up, potentially in some states, you'll have every residential, commercial, and industrial usage and data centers on par with that magnitude of usage. They're the ones asking to unnaturally rezone residential and agricultural areas at a time when actually we need more ag land and we're using too much ag land. We need food. And then it's a matter of what it's being used for. There's a lot of technologies that we could theoretically deploy, right? But they're just not there, or their harms are too great. So let's say I have a technology that could extend your heart life by 10 years, but it would require me to amputate 2 of your limbs to do it. Well, that's not a viable technology. I mean, you got to get better than that. And it's a similar thing. You have to have something that can work harmoniously with the economy and society we have. If you're going to say we're going to take a company like OpenAI that has $4 to $12 billion in revenue, but extends itself for $1.2 trillion in debt obligations, and could only do that because government in all these states are giving them 30 to 50-year tax abatements on everything they purchase on things that depreciate within 3 to 5 years, and they're like, man, we can't do it with the Mag 7 companies without the unnatural rezoning, exempting them from every regulation that power plants themselves have to deal with, and taxes that, if I'm a farmer and I farm that land, I have to pay sales tax on tractors. You guys don't. Well, Steve, that's more akin to the solar, the wind, the EVs, the Green New Deal, where you have something that could only make it kind of
if it was subsidized
government favors.
Right.
So what I am opposing is the government gaslighting to enable this. And then just one more thing, if it does cause harm because it's this cloud-based surveillance state, techno-feudal state, where you're just having AI chatbot slop, well, we need a trillion, megawatts of power to do this. Well, you know what? If you need that, maybe we ought not do it.
So, okay.
There's a lot there.
There is a lot there. Let me, because I can hear the friends of mine on the other side of this. So let me just tell you what I know they're going to say. This is different than those technologies in that it's absolutely where things are going to go in the future. It will absolutely be weaponized against us. There's no weaponization of wind farms. There's no weaponization of ethanol. All right, this is going to be weaponized against us by rival nations like China, who don't have any of the considerations that we are, labor practices, none of that. They don't care about any of that. They can just absolutely chattel their people all they want and get way ahead of us into this space and then use this technology to essentially enslave us digitally, because we have to balance the kinds of things you're talking about. And therefore, the subsidization and the government action is necessary in order to be some form of a counterbalance to the fact that the command economies we're up against don't have any of the human resource or capital considerations that we do. How would you respond to that?
So there's about three things on that, but first is a pre point that I think is important. What people who argue that switch off between saying we're anti-market and not naturally blocking it, and then they describe a Manhattan Project. Okay, well, those are two different things. So what you're describing is, no, a whole of government approach, government gets involved. You're saying a rationale why we need to, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not free market. And there are times you need that, but let's just not mix and match arguments there. So that is government getting involved on behalf of the wealthiest companies that, by the way, only have the market share they do because of the monetary policies we have. Given the inflation we have, we would never cut another 25 basis points, which the market is pricing in for December. But you know why they're doing that? Because they're 15 to 25% off their stock market valuations, their highs. So again, I mean, that's another favor as well. But so let's be clear, it is a favor. So now we have to compete with China. There's a couple of problems with that. I'll start with the minor and then the fundamental. The minor stuff is I would take that more seriously if we weren't using the same companies that built China's surveillance state are in with China. In fact, Lutnick is pushing to have NVIDIA's chips be sold to China. And he said it's currently on the president's desk and he's going to decide. So we'll see what happens. It's a little bit hard to take that serious, especially when you tether that to the 600,000 Chinese visas, the support for at least a residual Chinese ownership of TikTok. I'm not exactly seeing a whole.
So you're saying Manhattan Projects are for zero-sum games, literal civilization at stake. If we're already,
it seems like we're against China when we want, but not always.
If we're aligning with the companies that already gave China their infrastructure, your argument is that's not a zero-sum game. That's a grift, is what you would say.
That's concerning because, you know, if these were these new all-American companies, then I'd be like, all right, well, maybe we're building something new. But I mean, there's a great AP article your listeners should search for on how American tech companies built China's surveillance state. Just came out last month. So I'm a little bit leery of that. They've compromised those companies like head to toe. And we all recognize that, by the way, under Biden. That didn't magically change with the administration. I mean, these are the same companies, same leadership. So it's a little bit hard to take that seriously. But the more fundamental thing, I actually agree, Steve, with the premise. Our argument is that flushing all of the capital into AGI, that's what they're doing. Artificial general intelligence, meaning rather than narrow task, it's a matter of putting everyone's life, querying everyone's life on the cloud. And they want to create this Zeus, this Baal, this god that will give you general intelligence. And somehow it's like throwing jelly against the wall. You mix that up in some sort of thing, and out will pop the, you know, mechanized farms and seaports, to the extent that the longshoremen don't lobby Trump the other way, which they are, and pilotless fighter jets. Some of us are a little bit skeptical about that, and we actually believe that this is diverting us from what we should be doing. This is a grift, because anything that could not subsist without government to this extent is a grift. And that is why, indeed, China has not built this amount of, this amount of data centers. They're not following that. They're not competing on this level. And then another element of this too is even if you agree with it, there's two more points. Number one, we have an inversion of power. China built all the power. So then if they want to build more data centers, it will be sustainable. Steve, we don't have the power. We just don't have it. Like, they even agree to that. So I think we should all agree, just let's build up our infrastructure, not for data centers only, but for all of us. If we have enough, let's build data centers. And number two is, our concern is like this, that AI by its very nature, if it's as promising as they say it is, here's the thing. By the time this stuff is built and deployed, it will be obsolete. You're building a Titanic to promote something that you're saying is a quantum leap from digital technology. So then you're going to have all this hardware and infrastructure and heavy-handed buildings at a very painful cost. Oh, now for supercomputing, we only need this amount of area, just like for regular computing. We started off in the 60s with building size areas and it went to micro. And then if that's not going to happen, then it's all crap and garbage in, garbage out. So the notion that you're going to build out something greater than the railroads and highways and power plants for something this speculative is just, it just makes no sense.
So in the 2.5 minutes I have left, what do you think is a better solution to the AI issue?
Let the market work. I think, make it very clear that government will not be a backstop to a reckless business model. Okay? And then let's stop the Chinese espionage. I mean, I don't have time to get into it, but the Chinese have hacked into a lot of our DoD programs administered by Meta and Microsoft. I just don't understand how you build a competitor to China with organizations that are just compromised by China. I just don't think this is the thing. I think it's quantum computing, I think, is more promising, and that is something Trump has mentioned. Things that require a lot less infrastructure and hardware make a lot more sense. And I think the market will go there if we stop unnaturally funding inefficient investments.
Thank you, my friend. Again, happy Thanksgiving. Take care.
Happy Thanksgiving. Take care.
You bet. All right, gentlemen, we've got about 2 minutes here. Final thoughts on today's show, plans for Thanksgiving weekend. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I side with Daniel a lot on this. Yeah, Daniel and I have spoken in the past about his kind of eureka with big pharma. And it seems like he's applying the same kind of thinking to this now. We're just being asked to trust the experts on AI. Why? What have you learned in the last 5 years to think we should be trusting the experts and just saying, this is the future, it's undeniable, get on board? Just that and that alone, before even asking a secondary question, you should be putting on the brakes.
I, too, see some of the critics of AI who reflexively respond by, you don't understand. I just think that there needs to be a whole lot more humility from the pro-AI crowd, given that a lot of what they posit as being net benefits from AI, the average person probably won't be able to understand in an X post or a tweet or a 2-minute video. So I think there are definitely legitimate concerns just from the power consumption level.
Yes.
I mean, you look at around here, we have data centers on data centers on data centers around here in middle of Iowa. My utility bill has gone up exponentially in the last few years. I'm sure a lot of that is inflation, but I'd like to know how much of that are the data centers. There are legitimate concerns that people have just on that level, not to mention with what AI could or will be used for in terms of interacting with and maybe impacting everyday life. So there's got to be a lot more conversation before we just press on blindly.
I'm going to laugh my bleep off when the normie can't get air conditioning or their cable package because the AI is the future.
Go hard, Romans 8:28.